Hello everyone. Some of you asked me to create a tutorial about replicating this system, and in this video we will make some changes and fixes to make the system work correctly for replication. And I have already done few things, and let me show you which of them I have done. And let's open our component for interactable object. It is located in interactions folder. Here it is. And first, in replication graph section, double check that every event has multicast here and server here, because in my case I forgot to set this mequip as multicast event. Also, here we have an item, and we are setting it for replication in event begin play. And in some cases, this item doesn't exist at begin play time. So I have made this item a private variable and added a function called setItem. What does it do? It is setting an item and registers it for replication, like in event begin play. Also, now you have to use this function instead of setting this item manually. You can just play an editor, and Unreal will list you items that have compile errors now. I don't remember all of the places already, but I think it is in um, it is on, for example, every equipment item, like old leather shirt. Here in construction script, instead of setting item manually, now I'm calling set item, and here in the same way. And you will have to do these changes for every item that owns this component. Next, let's navigate to BPC inventory component and navigate to event graph and find our input action handling. Like when we are tapping on F keyboard button to interact with an object. So here we had a switch like this with the current interaction. Honestly, I don't remember if we have implemented it. I'm not sure, maybe we just implemented with the tracing. Yes, I think that we have implemented with tracing, and we have done something like action pick up in trace interactable objects. So we should not do that. We have to create custom event like I have created here, interact with actor, make it run on a server, and only in this event we have to call action pickup and not in this function. Well, what do we have now? So on server everything works correctly, but on client, well, if I will pick up, well, it will be picked up both on server and client. But it will not appear in inventory, and also if I will equip this item, then it will be equipped only on server, and only server will see the changes. Now we have to fix it, and let's continue. Here we are adding an item to inventory, and we have to call this on every client. So let's duplicate this event and call it multicast add item to inventory, and it's gonna do what server event previously did. Let's connect everything. What was connected to container? I think nothing. Also, let's set it as multicast. And let's call multicast add item to inventory. Oops. Let's remove this pin. Index item. Now I hope it will work. And it didn't again. Well, one more thing that we have to change is we have BC container cell. It's also a U object, but we never marked it for replication. And also for our BC container item, mark everything as replicated. Every variable should be replicated. And now we have to deal with container cell. Also, let's replicate everything here. And we have to mark them as replicated. Let's open event graph here. Maybe we can handle some events here, like create it or something else. No, I don't think so. Well, our BC container cells are created in a function called construct cell. Construct cell is part of our blueprint functions library. And here, after creation of this cell, we have to register it for replication. To do that, let's navigate to our BPC interactable object, event graph, and just copy this part and paste it here. And we have to return a cell, and into a replicated object we're gonna also plug a cell. And nothing appeared here, but we cannot pick up. Oh well. So I have debugged it, and on the client side cell is still unknown object, so it means that it is not replicated correctly. Also, I have added such set in blueprint function library. I'm not sure if it is needed, but I have added it. So I think that this part is not working for us. What we're gonna do, we have to plug world context object here, I think. Also, in our blueprint function library, we have a construct item function, and item here is also not set for replication, so we have to open our construct cell, copy this logic, and paste it to construct item. And in our BPC inventory component in initialize function, where we are creating a secret pocket, we're creating a container cell not using our function. We are creating it manually. So let's just copy construct cell here, get default container dimension, split it up, x to x, y to y, get local default container items. This is not needed for us. We can remove this local variable. And instead of this, we're gonna use this construct cell. Outer is gonna be self. And let's connect sequence pin to construct item. Well, in our blueprint function library in construct item, I have also forgot to connect replicated object to register replicated object. Just get return value of construct container item and plug it here. And after that, I have just checked it. Picking up an item will work. So, what we're gonna do next? Let me show you. If I will equip an item, then we can see on the server that item is equipped correctly. I have some LODs issues, but that's not the system problem. So item is only equipped on server and not on a client. Now let's fix it. Let's open our BP equipment item and see what happens when we are trying to equip an item. It is called on the server and it gets inventory component and calls handle container item action. Let's see what it does. Well, the problem is that it is equipped only on server and it has to be called, and this function has to be called both on server and client side. And I mean not this function. I think that checking on actions that has to be handled should stay on server side, but logic like this and like this should be multicasted. I mean, like these functions should be multicasted and these functions should be multicasted. All conditional checks should happen on server, in my opinion. And so what we're gonna do? Let's open our equip item at slot. What does it call? It just said skeletal mesh. So let's start from equip item at slot. And I think remove item also. So we have to do a lot of changes here. Let me think a little bit. Well, let's start from equip item at slot. Let's make it an event instead of function. Right click on it and convert function to event. Okay, here it is. Let's move it to the bottom. Oops. Well, after a few crashes, I have decided to do it in a little bit another way. So we're not gonna convert this function to event. You can, if you have already converted it, you can right click and convert it back to a function. So what's happening here? We have equip item at slot function. Now let's open event graph and add, we have a equip item at slot event. So why are we calling equip item at slot function and not an event? Well, we have already created these functions, so let's select this one and make it to run only on server and reliable. And the second one is gonna be multicast reliable, and let's rename them. First one is gonna be called equip item at slot. First one is gonna be as equip item at slot. And Where have we called it? In handle action for item, I think. Yeah, here in handle container item actions, instead of equip item at slot function, we're gonna call as equip item at slot and plug an item here. Now we should do the same here also. Let's just copy and paste it. And okay, that's for equip item. Now let's do the same for the equip item at slot. Open event graph, and maybe we already have the equip event. No, but we have remove equipped item event. Now let's create custom event as the equip item at slot. It should run only on server and it should call the equip. Let's plug slot here so that we know all inputs and we can disconnect it. Now we need to duplicate this event and call it m the equip item at slot. And this one should already call this equip item at slot function. Also, let's make them run on server reliable, multicast reliable. And this server event should call multicast event. Let's comment it to equip item, the equip item, and we have remove equipped item. So let's navigate back to our handle container item action and replace the equip item at slot with as the equip item at slot. Now let's replace remove item with remove item server remove, not this one. Well, what does this events do? Remove equipped item, call remove equipped item. And what does remove item do? Oh, remove item removes an item from an inventory. It's not just a removal of equipped item. So we have to create, we already have remove item, but also let's make first event to run on server reliable and rename it to s remove item at index and this one to m remove item at index, make it multicast. Both of them are reliable, and that's it. Now let's navigate back to our handle container item actions and replace this remove item. Maybe we can just replace it with no. So let's call s remove item at index, plug item, plug cell, and remove this one and replace it. Connect everything. Here is just remove item and remove equipped item. So let's copy it and place it here. Item goes to item and cell is from cell. So from cell is fine here. We can remove this and connect it. Well, now remove equipped item. We can also call s remove, oh no, remove equipped item. I think that we have to do some small changes in event graph. So here remove equipped item, let's also rename it to s remove equipped item, make it server reliable, and the same for second event, m remove equipped item, and make it multicast instead of running on server. Compile, save. Let's go back and replace this with s remove equipped item. Delete it and plug everything. Well, let's double check what we have done here. We can remove this also. Well, we don't have open container, but it is not needed because it is a user interface function. Drop item from inventory. Drop item from inventory. What does it do? We'll check it a little bit later. So now let's check. Pick up. Equip. It was equipped on client and oh, and on the server also. So on server it is equipped. Let me split its screen. And now let's equip it from a nurse, for example. This has the same functions. Equip. Well, as you can see, on both on client and server side, equipping works correctly. Now let's de-equip them, for example, or like this. Let's de-equip. So it disappeared, and on client side it also disappeared. You can see here. And how dropping from inventory happens, like throw away. So on client, wait. So on the server side it appeared here, but on the client side it appeared here and here. I think it was duplicated. Let's check it again with pants. I'll do it on another screen, but I'm just right-clicking on pants and selecting throw away. Well, yes, on the server side it works correctly, but on the client side item is duped. And we have to fix it also. Well, I think that the problem is that handle container item action is called on both server and client when we're talking about widgets, but it should be called only on the server. And to do that, we're gonna just add yes, it is correct. It is called both on client and server, and I've just debugged it. And here in our inventory component, handle action for item, as we can see, is called, and it is multicasted from here, but it should not. It should be called only on server and should not be called on a client. Oh, it should not be multicast, it should be called only on server. So what if we can just delete this multicast from server and place this function here and connect action to action, item to item, from cell to cell, and remove this multicast, and this stays server reliable, and we can compile and save. Now it should work. Let me also change weather so that it will be easier to understand what happens. So now let me pick up a short, come closer here, and throw it away. Oops. So I have thrown it away. Where is... So here is the short on the server. And let's check if on client. And the same on the client. On client side it is also only one short. And it is not duped on both server and both clients. So let's check server. Server also can equip. Also can throw away. So on server everything works fine. Well, now we have to check that if we will place an item into our container and throw it container, then this item will appear on both server and client. We had apples for test. Let me find them. Well, where is an apple? Apple. That's not the correct one. Well, it should be somewhere here. I think that I have removed them. Let me create them very fast. Also, I just mentioned that in our BPC interactable object component replicates is set to false, set it to true, and in BP container item base, select this component and check component replicates also. Oh, well, one more thing that we have to do, let's open our blueprint functions library, and in construct item, if is valid here returns as false, we're just returning this item, and the same for construction cell. If is valid is false, then we're gonna just return a cell. Well, but we still need to register this object for replication, even if this function wasn't able to get component by class, and this can happen during just placing these items here. So for example, for this item character doesn't exist, and so the component doesn't exist by itself, so we cannot register this object for replication. If I will drag a new short here, its item will be none. It would be none if we didn't add this, but an item still not registered for replication. So what do we have to do here? Let's remove this register replicated object like this and just remove an object here and the same here, because we cannot guarantee that it will be called. So where do we have to register these objects? I think that we have to register them in runtime right after calling construct item or construct cell. So let's here in blueprint functions, blueprint function library, let's create a new function, call it register object, and this thing is gonna get character, get component by class, and let's find this component. I already forgot how it is called, or our manager component, and we're gonna call register replicated u object and plug it here. Now we're gonna call this register object everywhere where construct item and construct cell is called. So what we're gonna do? We're gonna open our components. First, let's open our inventory component and navigate to initialize. So here after construct cell, we're gonna register object. Connect it and connect it here. So here we have registered cell for our secret pocket. Also, we have to register a secret pocket by itself. So we're gonna paste it here and so on. And the same for every other object that we have. So now we are finished with inventory component, and we have to do the same but for our objects like short and so on so on. So to do that, let's open our folder with items that can be collected. And what we're gonna do here in construction script, we're gonna do the same for construct cell. We're gonna call register object and so on for every object that we have. And the same for an item that we are creating in construction script. Oh, no, I'm not correct, because construction script can be called before even starting of the game. So what do we have to do here? Here we gonna open our BP container item base, open begin play, and what we're gonna do here? So on begin play we're gonna register, where is it? Event begin play, and here we're gonna get an item and register this object for replication. And also we're gonna get rows of this item, and for each of this row and for each of cell in this row, let's break it, for each cell we're gonna call register object. Now I think that if we will drag, for example, a short here, yes, everything should work. Let's check it. Equipment works as previously, and now let's test an apple. So we have collected an apple, and now, for example, let's drop it here, and as you can see, nothing happens. Well, our inventory is not updated. We will fix it a little bit later. Let's try to throw the short away. Okay, and now pick the short from a server, for example. Quip. Yes, Apple is saved correctly, its location saved correctly, but there is something with de-equipping on a server, on the client side, and with the refreshing of inventory. Let's open our VPC inventory component and open our add item to inventory function. So call on inventory updated should refresh the inventory, by the way, but it doesn't. Let's debug it. So let's equip short and pick up an apple. So we need to know what is called when our item is dropped in inventory. I think it is add item to select location, and as you can see here in our add item to select location, it is called on a client, and then it is called on a server. But well, by the way, on a client it should work. So well, the main problem here is that I didn't mention that from a client side we're just calling a server event. So what do we have to do? We have to call add item to select location from a client side also. So let's copy it, paste it here, item to item, cell to cell, location to location. And now object will be, it has to be moved correctly. Let's quit, pick up an apple, and okay, everything works fine. Now let's drop our short to, well, okay, throw away, and I'm gonna equip it on from a server. So apple still here, and on client side these rows for placeholders are not drawn correctly, and even not for placeholders. I think that it is because our initial placeholders in the equip item at slot, no, not the equip item at slot, but in maybe remove equipped item. Here it is. Yes, remove equipped item. We are constructing cells, creating items, but we're not registering them for a replication. And we have to do that. So let's do the same here. We have to call register object for every cell and for every object that we have. Or even let's open our BPF blueprint function library and duplicate register objects, or we cannot duplicate it, or I will crash right now, I think. No, I didn't crash. And now let's call it register objects. Open it, and instead of one replicated object, it gonna use an array and loop through this object for each loop and register each object from an array like this. Compile, save. Now let's navigate back to our inventory system, and here we're gonna call register objects and plug an array. Also, we have to connect everything like this and call register object for a placeholder, because placeholders also has to be replicated, I think. And let's do the same for every item that we have. So now when all the placeholders also marked for a replication, we can test it, and it should fix these issues for us. Let me equip and de-equip. No, it didn't. We can also check something like a rotation, whether it is working. But I don't have drop on Earth. Well, drop on our Earth wasn't handled correctly, so on the server it didn't appear, and on the client it didn't appear. So we have to fix an issue when we are trying to drop an item, but there is no place and item is dropped on Earth. So to fix this issue, we have to open our widget blueprint for a cell. It's called VB container cell. And here we are checking whether we can store item in cell at location. And if false, then we are trying to add item to inventory and dropping an item on Earth. Well, but we didn't even we didn't even implement drop on Earth function. And also we have to call this function add item to inventory in our component, and I think that it will not drop it. So let's open our widget blueprint container cell, and this one is called on the client and this one should be called on a server. So let's double check. It is called on the server, but it disappears when drop on Earth is called. So here we're gonna get inventory component and call drop item. Let's see what this function does. Server drop item. Well, let's connect it here and this one here. Save, compile. Now let's test it. Let's equip bag, pick up pants and try to rotate them and drag them here. So they have disappeared and they even didn't drop on Earth for some reason. So well, we can be sure that this drop item is called, but I have forgotten to connect an item that we have to drop. Let's connect it. And let's try it again now. Let's equip this and pick up pants, rotate them, drop, and here they are. So I think that's it for this. Maybe not. Let's check a rotation also. Let's rotate short in the bag, put it here and throw away our bag. Where is it? Oh, no way. So what can be a problem? Where is our handle container item action? And let's check. What do we have to check? We have to check drop item from inventory. And it spawns a nectar on server side. And on server side, it checks whether it can be added to inventory. If it cannot be dropped on ours. Well, looks like it should work. So spawning is working as we have checked earlier. Unfortunately, next part of the video wasn't recorded correctly because I ran out of my disk space, and if I remember correctly, I wasn't able to reproduce this issue with disappearing of a bag, and if I will reproduce it in future, I will surely record a video how to fix it. And now we're gonna fix an issue dedicated to invisible containers, invisible containers and invisible cells for items on the client side. First thing that we have to do, we have to make these slots back to rep notify. They should be replicated, and Next, let's open event graph, and due to replication of these slots, we don't need to call initialize both on client and server, we have to call it only on server. That's why I have added this condition in begin play. I'm checking if a machine on which this function is currently running is a server, and if it is, then we're calling initialize for all clients and for server by itself. In other case, we are getting an owner, casting it to character, setting it to variable, and checking if it is locally controlled. That's it. Now let's open initialize function. And I removed all registering of an object here, and just moved it to separate sequence pin, then 3. Here I'm getting all slots, and for each of them I'm registering them, getting the rows, and registering cells for this row. And now items are replicated correctly, slots are drawn correctly. Not all of them, as you can see here I previously had few of them, but that is not purpose of inventory replication. So now let's check it. Let's equip short, pick up an apple, check if on server we are in a short. Correct. Now on client let's move it somewhere here and throw short away. Here it is. And on server we're equipping it. Here is an apple. Throw away an empty short. Equip the short here, apple disappeared. So, and let's also check a rotation of an item. Let's equip another short. Move it here, rotate an apple so it is aligned horizontally, throw short away, and which one of them? I think this one, yes, and here as you can see apple is rotated correctly. Well, I think that do we need something else for these tutorial videos? I'm not sure. Okay. Well, yes, opening container is not working now, and let's fix it. Let's navigate to our handle container item actions, and here we have open. And we're calling open container. And we have such check. We should call open we don't need this check, I think, and we can plug it like this. And what does open container does? Oh, it's function called on widget. So let's open our inventory component event graph and create an event called, let's call it owner open container. Let's copy this, paste it here, and plug target item, and let's make it, let's select run on owning client. And instead of using open container in handle container item action, we're gonna call owner open container and connect inventory widget item. Save compile, and we should be able to open container now. Equip, and drag it here, open. Okay. And does it work on the server? Dequip, open. Well, it works only on the server and doesn't work on the client. So we are on server and telling an owner Let's debug it. Oh, target is not replicated, and it should not be replicated, I think. So we have to define who is calling inventor widget. We don't even need to plug it here. We can delete it from handle container item actions. And we also don't need it as an input here, so we can remove target input. And in open container, we have to plug our inventor widget. Save, compile. Now let's wait. Pick up, open. Here it is. Now opening container, open of container is working. And finally, I think that's all for this video. If I forgot something, feel free to write me in comments, because I also need a replication of the system to work, and a system by itself to work correctly, because I'm gonna use it in my project. And thanks for watching. Hope it will help someone.